Capture is easy, calendar's obvious, but tasks, let's face it, that's when most productivity systems fall apart. You have to think about where they're going to live and how are you going to make sure you look at them at the right times, at the right places. So today is going to be the wrap up of our Choose Four Things series, and we're going to tackle how to build a task system that you can trust. Hi, I'm Em. I talk about productivity, planning, and systems, and I overthink this stuff a lot so that you don't have to. I'm going to come clean. I left this video to the last of the series because I had hoped I would have a better answer for you, and I kind of do, but it is not the solution to the puzzle, but it sort of is. I have struggled with this like most other people. I've gone from digital to paper and back to digital and having a combo, and it's not an easy fix. What we need is not necessarily a list, not necessarily a task manager, but we need a system that works for the complexity of our life, depending on how complex your life is. In this video, we're going to cover what do we need in a task system, digital options, paper options, some other options that you might not have considered, and then a strong suggestion at the end. Just like when we talked about capture, we couldn't have just one capture container necessarily. We needed different things in different environments, something at your desk, something different maybe on the go. Well, just like that, there might not be one task tool that works for all the different areas of your life. Just because you want to keep it simple, that doesn't mean you should restrict yourself to one all-encompassing tool. It means you should find out what creates the least friction and allows you to get the most done and have the most trust in your system. So what does a task system mean? And this could be a list, or this could be a task manager, or it could be multiple things. What you need is clear, designated homes for your tasks. Now that may all be in one place, or that may be in different places for different things. But you need to be intentional about why you're choosing what you're choosing. You might have one place for home tasks, one for work tasks, one for someday maybe. You might have one for this kind of home task, you might have one for that kind of home task. They're not necessarily all created equally. Finance type things are going to be different from taking out the garbage. The second thing that you need is to know that you will actually engage with them. Sometimes it's great to set things up in a digital way, but if you never open it, it's not the best solution. Likewise, it might be easiest to write it all down, but if there's going to be friction with you using that going forward, just because it was easy to get them in doesn't mean it's going to be easy for you to use. So you have to think about those use cases, your habits. And the third thing is knowing the timing for those particular kinds of tasks. Not all tasks have the same urgency. So some things you can look at once every month or every couple months. Some things you need to look at every day or every couple days. The way that you set things up, you can have different cadences for different types of things. It might be easier if those things live in different places when you look at them in different frequency, or you might have one system that includes all those different cadences. What matters is that if you have things in one place or multiple places, you have a framework built around them so that you are confident that nothing's going to fall through the cracks. Digital options are great. We're going to go through the pros and cons to start with. And some of my pros might be your cons, but I'm trying to generalize, but that doesn't always work. So pros, everyone can agree, they're searchable. That is the best thing. And a lot of times there's not as much need to redo stuff because it's easy to cut, paste, move forward, that sort of thing. It can also handle complex things pretty well. You can link to things, you can include images, receipts, lots of complexity can be involved. One of the biggest things, being able to have reminders or notifications turned on. Now, those were the pros, but that reminders thing can also be a con, because especially if you're new to this stuff, you might turn on all the notifications, and just like, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. Same thing goes with notifications. If a notification goes off for every little thing, you're going to start ignoring them. So you need to use those judiciously, just like other things. Start simple, add complexity later. Only the most important things that have drop dead times that you might be prone to forget get the reminders, for me. Other people, they may be able to handle more. Some of the other cons, for me, I find digital tools are easier to ignore because I am always in my notebooks. I'm always in my notebook, so if it's in there, it's going to be a lot harder for me to ignore. But it's very easy not to open a certain app or a certain, go to a certain web page or what have you. Those are easier for me to ignore. So I have lots of fun setting things up, but then oftentimes they get set up and then they are this beautiful monument that never gets touched again. That's the last of the cons, is make sure you aren't setting them up because they're fun and pretty to set up. You need to make sure you're going to use it. Or at least if you've gone through this once or twice, see if you've figured out a pattern about yourself like I have. This isn't going to be a showcase of apps, but I'm going to give you a bunch of popular ones, most of which I've tried at least once. We'll start from lightweight and work our way down. Lightweight things: Apple Reminders, Google Tasks, Google Keep, Microsoft To Do, and a web-based one, To Do, spelled funny. Those are the ones that come to mind when I think about lightweight stuff. More traditional task managers or project managers: Todoist, TickTick, OmniFocus, Things. The last couple are Apple specific. The other two are multi-platform. Try them all. There's the all-in-one workspace sort of thing, like Notion or ClickUp. They are amazing because they can combine your reference material or notes, or more of a knowledge management system, with databases. So you could have tasks and sometimes even calendars and all kinds of great things. But there's a tendency to overbuild. And it's a lot of fun and it can do everything. But for me, the fun is in building it and not always so much in using it. Dashboards are great, but only if you've actually done the work to keep the things up to date to use the dashboards to help you do stuff. And then a simple digital option is just doing what you do on paper, but doing it digitally, like a Google Doc, Google Sheet, Apple Note, or Doc, just any kind of a digital piece of paper, so to speak. Things like that are often good for like the project management, even if you're using another system, maybe doing something digital to keep track of things longer term or bigger. On to paper options. Like I said, for me, paper is more visible because I'm always in my notebook. For me, that's a pro. It's tangible. I can, pick it up. I can move it around. There's nothing fancy to have. You got a piece of paper, you got a pen, you're ready to go. It's flexible, different size paper, different size books, different size notepads. One great thing I love about paper is, for me, a lot of times what makes me not end up carrying on with my digital planners is I need color. I really need to color code. I have found that is super important for my brain. And so as much as I go back to OmniFocus about once every 6 months or a year since version 1, the fact that it's just all white with black text or all black with white text, and there's a couple little things, but that I just can't. I need my tasks colored by area of focus, or I need to be able to group them and color the list or color the header of the list. I need color. So you can use colored pens, you can use highlighters, you can use Post-its, you can use colored paper. There's just a lot of different ways to bring color in if you're using paper. And other visual cues, it's easy to circle and arrow and highlight, underline, and all of those things. I am a visual person. That is one of the reasons that paper works so well for me. And one of the reasons why, if I'm doing something digitally, I tend to go down rabbit holes and not get things done. The biggest con is it is not searchable. And the other con is, if you like keeping a clean list, you're going to be doing a lot of possibly forwarding, migrating tasks from one day to the next, or from one book to the next, or one list to the next. So it can be a little tedious in that way. The other thing is, you might not have your stuff on the go if it's sitting in a notebook on your desk, like my notebook usually is. And speaking of access, it's also harder to share with other people. So if you're collaborating, you're probably going to have to do things digitally. You might do those lists in your just notebook or bullet journal, or just on a piece of paper, or you might do them in planners. So you might do them in conjunction with a weekly spread or a monthly spread, or in a notes section of a dedicated planner. And again, they could just be running lists, or they could be lists per project, or it could be lists per area of life. A lot of different ways to categorize your lists. Some other options that you might want to consider. Now, I've said you don't need to have all your tasks in one place, so maybe you want some things paper and some things digital, Or maybe you want your overall system to be some digital system where you can organize and search and have records of things, but you want your kind of day-to-day thing to be more lightweight, whether that's a paper option or a more simplistic digital option like a Apple Note or something. Another option would be the digital handwriting tools. If you have a tablet and a stylus or Apple Pencil, you could use something like Notability or GoodNotes, but that's one way to make it searchable and still be able to write. The new thing that I'm trying out, knowing that I'm so visual, is these visual planning tools. So I've been trying out things like Canva's Noteboard feature. I've tried Freeform on Apple, but there's Miro and there's other whiteboard apps. Another one I'm playing with is called Canopio. Being able to have things that are color coded, like I said, is so important to me, kind of like digital post-its, to be able to move them around and group them one way and then drag them around and group them a different way and then move them off to another space and group them a different way or copy them, or lots of different fun visual things like that. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that from me. So think about, if you're digital, if you think maybe a digital whiteboard might be something to do for part of your system. If you haven't already, grab my Choose Your 4 Things Guide to Building a Simple Productivity System. Been a little name change recently, but it's the same guide that I've been talking about, helping you figure out where you're going to capture, calendar, plan, and corral your tasks. And there's information below on that. So I said a strong suggestion. My strong suggestion is, if you're just getting started, keep it simple. Just start with a list, one list, and then as you find you need complexity, add on to it slowly. Keep a record of why you've changed when you change. Don't just reinvent the wheel every time. If you're using tool A and you move to tool B, write something out, type something out about what didn't work about tool A and why you're choosing tool B, so that when you inevitably move on from tool B, you don't go back to tool A and think it was great. If you are using one thing and you find it's not fulfilling your needs and you add something else, maybe you don't get rid of the first thing, maybe you just add the second thing for part of your world. Building a system that doesn't necessarily have to fit everything into the same box. I go back to OmniFocus. I fought so hard to put like everything in my whole world, from the smallest of habits to the biggest of projects, in that one tool. And that was not a good solution for me. So this wraps up the Choose 4 Things series of videos. We've done capture, we've done calendar, we've done planning your day, week, or other time frames. You've got everything you need to build a simple personal productivity system. This is not building an exhaustive productivity system. For the basic of getting things done, we've got the basics. Now I say that, but there is an important cousin that I did not include in the 4 things. I went back and forth, and initially I did not include it because I didn't want to scare people, because that cousin is having a weekly reset practice, or some kind of a weekly practice, or some kind of a regular cadence to clean up your system. So once you've got those basic 4 pieces in place, if you don't have a weekly practice, I highly recommend that's something that you consider. And I've got resources I'll link down below for you. If you've been following the whole series, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Which of your tools have been improved? Which were your big ahas? Which areas are you still struggling with? Which videos were the most helpful? Love to know any of that. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.